What's up everybody, this is Repeat. Welcome back. We're going to be summarizing module 10 for course 2, Real Estate Salesperson Program by Humber. Let's get to it. So what they talk about in this lesson is basically environmental regulatory authorities. This lesson detailed the regulatory authorities and legislation regarding property conditions and disclosures. The Ontario Building Code regulates the issue of building permits, among other things. It sets out qualifications for switch system inspectors and for people engaged in the on-site construction, installation, repair, and servicing, and the cleaning or emptying of sewage systems. The Technical Standards and Safety Authority administers safety standards in a number of the areas, including engineering design reviews, inspection, investigation, licensing and registration, training and certification, and public education. The TSSA is responsible for ensuring that incidents where the environment is affected are investigated and managed properly. In cases where groundwater or soils are affected, the TSSA is responsible for administrating the environment management protocol and ensuring that areas affected by spills or leakage will be returned to Ontario standards. The Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks enforces Ontario's Environmental Protection Act and is empowered to investigate pollution, waste management, waste disposal, and litter management/disposal. The ministry exercises a wide range of powers, including search and seizure provisions to ensure adherence to environmental regulations. Identifying detrimental conditions is a key part of a salesperson's work. They can only see visible conditions and cannot identify hidden conditions such as mold in difficult to access locations, a leaking underground pipe, or rotten wood. For this reason, a salesperson representing a seller may recommend the seller to obtain a professional home inspection. A salesperson representing a buyer should always make this recommendation. Key causes for detrimental hazards are deferred maintenance, the age of a property, and environmental issues. New properties may have detrimental conditions such as radon or mold. Radon is a gas. Radon is an invisible, odorless, tasteless gas produced by the decay of uranium that occurs naturally in the Earth's crust. Older properties may be prone to mold, UFFI, lead in pipes or service pipes, or asbestos. Some of these detrimental conditions pose environmental concerns, and an environmental assessment should be recommended by a salesperson if they believe it is necessary. Most detrimental conditions qualify as material facts, and if known, should be disclosed to a potential buyer. Salesperson obligation to discuss environmental concerns. When person qualifies as a salesperson, they commit to following the code of ethics. One of the parts of the code details a salesperson obligation to discuss any environmental concerns with the seller. This is important because not doing so may have ramifications on health, structural integrity, and the natural environment. Learning how to identify concerns is the first step. You must know how to recognize when an environmental assessment is required. Each stage of the process must be transparent and discussed openly with the seller. I'm just gonna go into that course. I'm just gonna click through it and see if I can find some information that might be very useful. We've talked about this, the building code, septic, and okay, we don't need this. TSSA and fuel tanks. The main concern with all fuel tanks is the risk of contamination of the environment. Okay. The existence of an above ground or underground fuel tanks on a property is a material fact that must be disclosed. An underground fuel tank could also be a latent defect, if known, must be disclosed. Yeah. So some of the responsibilities As a salesperson, you are representing a seller who has a known underground fuel tank. You will need to do the following: confirm with the seller that the tank is registered with TSSA. If the tank has been taken out of service or unused, confirm with the seller that they have received permission from the TSSA that the tank may be abandoned in the ground. If TSSA did not issue a variance to allow the underground to be abandoned in the ground, please advise the seller to arrange the immediate removal of the tank by the TSSA registered contractor. Okay, sounds good. So the Ministry of Environment and Conservation, they have the power to issue various license permits and certificates, like permits relating to water wells, approvals concerning herbicide used by cottage owners to control aquatic plant life, remediation of contaminated land, land development, and air quality. Okay, cool, sounds good. Yeah, there was something that I thought was very important. I don't know where I saw it. I forgot. Sorry, I'm just gonna click through it. So, potential detrimental conditions. Conducting a visual inspection of a property, you will need to be able to identify potential detrimental conditions. Some of these guys, two potential detrimental conditions you will need to understand are deferred or lack of routine maintenance and issues typically associated with older properties. Deferred materials or a lack of routine maintenance may lead to detrimental property conditions such as rotten walkways, wooden structures in need of repair, leaky roofs, insufficient insulation, the growth of mold, or infestation. Aluminum wiring, homes in Ontario built in the mid 1960s and the 70s may have aluminum wiring. The Ontario Electrical Safety Code permits the installation of aluminum wiring as long as appropriate aluminum to copper wire connectors are used in accordance with the code. Knob and tube wiring can pose few dangers and fire risks because it's not grounded. It cannot carry a heavy electrical load or be used outside in the outdoor locations. It is a rubber insulation breaks its rubber insulation breaks down over time. The system was abandoned when a newer system came out. Okay, cool. For galvanized pipes. Okay, I don't think we need to. So some of the detrimental conditions related to environment. Example, mold. Mold is the growth of a fungi. Minute fungi, traditionally associated with decaying vegetables or animal matter. It can take hold when a home does not have adequate ventilation and condensation builds up inside. Lead-based products is a major health risk and is listed as a designated hazardous substance under the Ontario's Occupation Health and Safety Act. So asbestos was commonly used because of its insulation, strengthening, and fire and heat resisting property. The product is still most frequently encountered in roofing materials, walls, and pipe coverings. Occupational health and safety legislation at the federal and provincial levels have declared asbestos a carcinogenic health hazard. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Please correct me. It poses a health risk when microscopic fibers are released into the air. However, Ontario does not have a law that prohibits selling homes with asbestos. Radon is an element, we already know about this. Yeah, okay, let's move on to the next. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. I don't think there was anything else. Okay, yeah, this so basically I'm gonna show you what this is. What this means is yeah, I don't think there's anything else. So moving on to lesson 2, stigmatized property. For real estate purposes, a stigma is a non-physical, intangible attribute of a property that may trigger an emotional or physiological physiological sorry about that, or a psychological response from a potential buyer. It may reduce the number of buyers interested in the property and the sale price. Examples of a stigma may include murder, suicide, death, or an illegal drug operation, or an alleged ghost. Okay, that's funny. Imagine you go and you're you're showing a house and you have to tell a buyer, yo, this house might be haunted, bro. Oh, that's funny. Sorry. Intangible issues such as stigmas are difficult to quantify. So, a stigma in the context of real estate, a stigma is a non physical, intangible attribute of a property that may elicit psychological or emotional response on the part of a potential buyer. There may have been an event or circumstance that occurred in or near the property that does not affect the property's appearance or function, but might be considered by some as an emotionally disquieting. Unlike a latent or patent defect, which may exist at a property, there is nothing physical, observable, or measurable associated with a stigma. Seller's obligation for disclosure. There are numbers of elements to consider surrounding a seller's disclosure obligation. There are latent defects, patent defects, and stigmas. Latent defects that affect a home's safety or inhabitability. Sellers should seek legal advice around the disclosure obligations. For patent defects and stigmas, there are no legal requirements or case law in Ontario for the seller to disclose the existence of a patent defect or stigma. However, the law is evolving, and sellers and their salesperson must be aware of and wary of false representation. It is your responsibility to acquire information from the seller and communicating fully with the buyer's salesperson. So, salespersons and disclosures, right? We're gonna go here again. A salesperson will conduct a visual inspection of a property and ask questions about any visible signs of disrepair or potential problems. If problems look serious, such as dampness in the basement, rusty nails, or damp stains on the ceiling, they may recommend pre-listing inspections to get an accurate assessment of the property, so they can be more fully discover and disclose material facts to the seller. Inspection may identify potential issues regarding the condition of the property and will help the salesperson estimate a realistic listing price and selling price for the property. Salesperson will ask the seller for source documents and research the property by internet search using the address of the property and checking the previous local listing service for the subject property. Search may provide additional information about the property. Salesperson may discover a material fact about the property and will be prepared to discuss it with the seller, along with the best approach to disclosing to the buyer. A material fact is any fact that would affect a reasonable person's decision to acquire or dispose of an interest in real estate. So fairness and honesty, treating clients and other professionals with fairness and honesty is a key element of succeeding in the real estate. By doing so, you're successful in establishing good reputation as well as adhering to the REBA Code of Ethics. Discussions with the seller. After the discussion, the salesperson should document information a seller provides, advise the seller to seek third-party assistance, ensure marketing material accurately reflects the property, discuss disclosure obligations with the client, and identify multiple representation situation, if any, exist. This also documents their own. They may also document their own steps and communicate regularly with the seller. So this basically just summarizes the whole module 10, and yeah, lesson 3 is summaries. Module summary, we can go through it, see what they say, and I think we should be done. Yeah, everything we've already talked about. Wow. Yeah, everything we've talked about. So this was lesson module 10. I hope you guys liked it. Thank you. I'll be doing module 11 soon.